So I'm just waiting for Simon to join. Got loads of people coming on. Oh, sorry, it's a lot of numbers. And we're really excited to see you. So obviously, as promised today, we've had hundreds of questions about our experience on Dragon's Den. We've written some questions down, both me and Simon, and we're both going to talk to you today about our experience. It's like, I want to say an exclusive, but it's not an exclusive. And we're going to be telling you about how the day went, how we got on the show, why we didn't take the offer, and so forth. So I'm going to add Si on now. There he is.
We're live.
We're live. How's it going? I want to say how's it going, but I spoke to you about 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to leave it as it is. But as always, obviously, great to chat to you, and so excited about this live because I know we've had loads and loads of questions. So first of all, I think that I'm going to kickstart. I'm going to ask some of the questions, Si, but obviously we're going to have a bit of a conversation. Okay, so first of all, one of the first questions is, how did we actually get onto the show? So I think Sarah was the first person that saw the message, I'll tell you, but the first thing had happened is that we were featured on This Morning, and it was on I think it was the Earth Day, Sarah, that happened on This Morning with Holly and Phil, or was it just...
Plastic Free July.
That was it, Plastic Free July, and a girl called Sarah Jossel, who's an amazing beauty editor, she was on the show. She loved PÄRLA as a product, and she decided to feature it. We didn't even know she was going to feature it. It was on there. We saw Holly and Phil trying it. I don't know if you remember one of those iconic moments where he actually swallowed the tablet as a whole. And from then, we actually got an Instagram message. And Si was the first person that read the Instagram message. So do you want to tell that part of the story and how soon after that was?
So I think I was doing a virtual consultation at the time. And I had this email pop up on mail on my MacBook saying, message from Dragon's Den. I'm looking for the founders of PÄRLA. So when you get that sort of message, your heart skips a beat. And and to be honest with you, I thought it was a scam. When I got that first message, I was like, oh, here we go again. Someone else trying to promise something that they can't deliver. But it turned out to be this lovely girl, Jess, who carried us all the way through, didn't she? She was there on the day and she's looked after us afterwards. And she was the one that started off the whole process. And the funny thing with Dragon's Den is at every single stage, they always say to you, you need to do this, but you probably won't be on the show. And then you get to the next stage and it's like, you need to do this, but you probably won't be on the show. So you never really know. We didn't really know. They said that in the email they sent us like a week before we were going on. So, you never truly know till you're there.
And I think that's a really good point, because I think it's really what Si and I were discussing is the timeline seems to be very skewed when you watch the show. You're like, did you guys do this last week and just not tell anyone? So what happened was, it was Plastic Free July, as he said. We got the messages. There's several rounds. So as far as I understand, there is a possibility for some brands to actually apply to be on Dragon's Den, and they have to go through kind of rigorous interviews and trials and so forth. But in our case, we didn't approach them. We knew that we were at our very embryonic stages of the business, so it didn't even cross our mind. But for both Simon and I, it was a dream to be on a programme like Dragon's Den, because we were both huge fans of it since a young age. I remember always being in absolute awe of the people that had got in there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about another friend of mine, Daniel Murray, who I managed to reconnect with really randomly last year, that was also an entrepreneur, knew loads of people that have been on the show, has done lots of kind of investor rounds and things like that. So he helps us through the process as well. But by the time we actually knew that we were going to get on the show, it was August 2020, and then we were on the show in September 2020. But as you know, it wasn't aired until last week. So it's quite a long timeline, and obviously you keeping this close to yourself, and the only people you can talk to about it or, interact with are each other. And
it was a nightmare. I'm the worst. I can't keep a secret to save my life. It's an ongoing joke in my household that I literally can't keep a secret. So to hold that one in with the fear of losing it if we didn't keep it a secret was so tough.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get on to the next question, and I think Sar, you can take this one. What helped you guys decide who was going to go on, and why wasn't Adarsh there?
That was one of the easier decisions that we had to make. As some of you guys may know, me and Rhona quite enjoy being in front of the camera, but Ads definitely doesn't, and he was more than happy to not be there. I mean, he would have loved to be there. I'm sure he would have done. Unfortunately, because of COVID restrictions and the way that the show is shot, we weren't allowed to all be there. They didn't feel that we could socially distance enough and still be on frame. So that was a difficult decision. I thought it'd be a harder one, but Ads, as always with Ads, it was super chilled and just supported us all the way through.
I think another thing to note is, guys, as well, is that as a team, we bring very different things to the table. So as you know, Simon and I are very much at the front and face of the brand, and we are very out there and we love talking to the camera. Ads is an extremely strong asset to the group. He's more the logistical money man. It was actually a little bit of Simon says it was an easy decision, but there was definitely a moment of, but, shouldn't the money guy go on? And I think that's one of the key things that you've noticed about being on Dragon's Den is that people need to know their numbers, and they're absolutely ripped apart if they don't know their numbers. So it was a real challenge because I'm not the strongest at numbers. Ads is. But as you saw from it, Simon was amazing. And I think that really was down to him really doing his homework, understanding. And I think a benefit was pushing you to understand your business better and quicker. So what I mean by that is we were really early on. So if you kind of didn't understand something, you were like, it's okay, this person looks after it. But we knew that if we were going to go on there and represent our business, we didn't want to do that. We didn't just want to be like, oh, we'll blag it on TV. No, we really needed to know and, Simon had moments where he got us to grill him on certain questions. He was just going through, you can talk about your own experience, but I think it was amazing how you, being a non-numbers person, really got down to the nitty-gritty of the numbers.
Yeah, I think it's important to say we've got a lot of amazing people behind us that really helped put that all together. But it was traditional old school revision tactics from school days, to be honest. That's what it reminded me of. But I think what you didn't see on the actual aired version of the Den, and one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, is that actually we were in there for 2.5 hours being grilled, not the 13 minutes that you saw on BBC. And so there was a lot of numbers chat about balance sheets, profit and loss, projections, margins, cost of goods, so much stuff that I'm actually really proud of myself and Rhona and Ads that we've all had to learn over the last 18 months, longer, 2 years that we've been working on PÄRLA. Obviously, we only launched in March last year, but we were working on it for a year before then. But that's one of the wonderful things of this whole experience is that we've all learned so many new skills. And that really came to light in the whole Dragon's Den process because we had to execute on them in front of millions and millions of people. And I knew full well that Peter Jones loves to grill people on numbers, so I made sure that I knew them like the back of my hand.
That actually brings me on to another question that got asked, and it was like 2.5 hours. What the hell? Tell me more about that. So I'm going to give my version of the events and Simon's going to give his, and I'm sure there's some overlap and something that we're missing. But so when they confirm that you're going to be on, we get told that it's in Manchester, sort out accommodation and travel. Simon and I decided to go down the day before, took the train down. We took the train down separately. We then got to our hotel rooms and we had practiced the pitch until we were basically blue in the face by this point, by the way, guys, because we had just gone over it and over it and over it. So there's only so much more pitching practice that you can do. Then we knew that we needed to be at the studio the next day at a certain time. So we both got up. Simon went for a run. I was just quite nervous, sort of sitting in my hotel room, had a fairly sleepless night just because you got that adrenaline. As Simon says, like taking an exam, you're like, what is going to happen? What is going to go on? Then what happened is that we got taken to the studio, I think, around 11. And because of COVID restrictions and social distancing, we actually couldn't spend much time together in the waiting area, if you like. So there was like a few snacks and they touch up your makeup. But they were very strict about people it's about ensuring that you guys aren't too together. So we had our own dressing rooms, and again, from our dressing rooms, we were kind of like WhatsApping each other and, just giving each other, they're so nervous. And then eventually they give you a warning that you're about to go on. When we actually went on, we, as you saw kind of behind the scenes, we were overwhelmed, nervous. I mean, I was really quiet, I think, for me. And we went in, and as you saw, our pitch, and it was a really nice.
Oh, you missed the bit before. So we had that whole intro thing, didn't we? We did all the intro. We did all the intro stuff before.
Yeah.
Where actually, you might not remember this. I said this to someone the other day, but you absolutely smashed that bit, and they didn't include half the stuff you said. But when you were doing it, I was like, wow, Rhones she's really arrived with her A game here. Like, this is before we went into the den, so we're like in the little backstage part, I guess. And you were just smashing out these one-liners, and I was like, she's really ready to rock here.
So they did that intro bit, as you're right, and we came in with so much enthusiasm. And there was another question that someone asked me, which I'm going to integrate into this, where they said, did you want to go on for exposure to take a deal? We definitely went on wanting to take a deal, because obviously we had looked up to so many dragons over the years, and we did have 2 dragons in mind. So that was Deborah and that was Tage. So we knew exactly the dragons that would be perfect for us. Anyways, then we did the pitch, and you guys only saw like 30 seconds or a minute of a pitch, but the pitch in actual fact was 3 minutes, and there were some great one-liners in there that weren't in the edit. But, it was basically a 50-50 pitch. So, Simon speaking first, then me, Simon rounding off. And I think it was well received. I mean, they definitely did the edits in a positive light, and then obviously you get grilled, as Simon says, for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think the pitch part for me was firstly the most important, but actually when you got in there, that was the easy bit. I think once I had those first few lines out, what you've got to remember, guys, is like I've watched Dragon's Den since I was like 14 or whatever. And those elevators opening and seeing the dragons in front of you is like that iconic scene. And then you saw it on the den. Me and Rhona did a fist pump. We're in the elevator, which isn't really an elevator, by the way. It opens up and you see them in front, and you're like, oh my God, like, I don't even know how to walk right now, never mind give a pitch. But actually the pitch went so well, and I was so chuffed with it, because when we'd been practicing it, and we had sent in a video pitch beforehand, and we did so many practices. But when we've been practicing it, normally one of us would mess up the lines at some point. But when we got in there, we both did really, really well, and it came off really nicely, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also there's definitely some bloopers which we're going to release sooner or later when we were practicing in Az's clinic. Now, in terms of the way the actual pitch went, I think what you saw, the representation that you were given on television was fair, in the sense that Deborah definitely loved the product, and she was already using it, and she saw something in the product which she hasn't seen before, having used toothpaste tablets, and that's mainly the taste, the quality of the product, the brand identity, and she very much was aware of the environmental impact. Sarah, as you saw, really liked it as well, but felt that she didn't necessarily have the passion. I think that was Peter. We had our differences with Tuka, but as it is, a lot of people know that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and dragons will have their reasons as well for not necessarily liking something. But I think the most important thing, because people say, weren't you really nervous? How was it? I think the most important thing to recognise is that if you're passionate and stay true to the reason why you're there, answering questions is a lot easier than you think. We also have a question on here as well. Someone's asked, what's the most exciting thing that has happened for you guys post the den? I'll let you answer that first.
I mean, well, how many days has it been now? 4 days? It's been just mental, really. I mean, the amount of messages, the amount of sales, to be honest with you. I mean, the amount of sales we've done in the last few days is just absolutely, it's blown our expectations. I think we've almost sold out. We've sold out everywhere apart from our website. We've sold out at Boots. We sold out at Vegan Kind, on Amazon, and we're getting pretty low on stock on the website as well. But it's just been amazing. And I think the really nice thing has been all the way through the support from dentists. The large majority of the dental profession has been so positive. And it felt really nice to be able to actually go on TV to talk about something positive around dentistry, because dentistry normally just gets such a negative press. And what we're really trying to do with this product is create something that actually is of the benefit of the world, as well as of dentistry, and as well as of looking after people's smiles and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
I think one of the most exciting things for me is that people have recognised that toothpaste tablets aren't a fad, and it's actually the future. And that's one of the best comments that we've got as a profession, saying, you know, you want to change something that I've been thinking about for a really long time. And I think definitely the response that we've got from people has been really overwhelming in a positive way. We didn't go on Dragon's Den as a sort of marketing ploy. You know, some people have asked that. We literally got asked and knew that we were so early on the business and just decided to go on to share our passion with the world. And, you know, from my point of view as well, somebody that's done television as well as Simon, people always say, why do you like doing things on television, or why did you agree to do this? And my answer always is, if you can impact people in the thousands and the millions, why wouldn't you? And I think your message goes so much further than just doing it on social media, for example. And we definitely had that, and particularly with, you know, perhaps older generations that don't use social media and that were able to engage with the product. So I think it was, for us, the most exciting thing has happened is the recognition, the support, you know, the orders, you know, it's all those things. And I think I wouldn't change it for the world. So
also that it's for us, as you say, Rhona, it's like most people haven't heard of toothpaste tablets, and it's the validation. And we've had it a little bit all the way along. We had it with like This Morning, we've had it with our being put into Boots, and we've got other national retailers coming up soon. And it's all these sort of little incremental validations. And it really felt for me that the Dragon's Den episode was like the end of that first chapter, that like really embryonic chapter, as you said. And now we move on to like the next stage where we like really move out into the mass and into the just trying to, I mean, we've got big goals for toothpaste tablets. Like, we want it to be the future of toothpaste. We don't want people using plastic toothpaste tubes anymore. So by the very means of our existence, we want this to completely change the way people do things. Just like Rhona said on the show, do you remember the time when people used to use plastic bags when they went to the supermarket, or plastic water bottles instead of refillable ones? We think this is the big change in toothpaste and in oral care in general, to be honest.
See, guys, that was my really good one-liners that Simon was talking about. That actually wasn't planned, but again, that was the whole thing about me talking passionately from the heart. I'm just thinking up at the other questions. Why did you decline the Dragon's offer? That's a great question, Amit. I'm going to it's funny because another question that I got was, can the dragons hear you whispering at the wall? No. Didn't know that my microphone could be heard, and that I said, they're not going to decline the 20. They're not going to decline the 20. But that wasn't a thing. Like, everything you see was so real, and that adrenaline rush that makes you just think on your feet is very real, guys. You cannot pre-plan this stuff. Of course, you can come really ready and prepared when it comes to your business, but those decisions that you make in there are not something that you can plan. So, yes, I really wanted it, but at the same time, I have been led by Simon and other experts in other fields that made me recognise the value of a business and the value of giving something away. And I'm being honest and vulnerable with you now that I didn't really understand those things, especially when it comes to e-commerce. I understand how to run a dental practice. I've been doing that for ages. This is out of my comfort zone. So having Simon, those mentors, led me to the right decision, as it were, because I'd probably been like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's just a dragon. And that was my point of view. But I realised I would effectively be giving away more than I have, and that wasn't a smart thing to do. So I was led by Simon in that instance, but I want Simon to elaborate onto why he decided that as well, with our mentors and other team members.
I think it comes down to all the prep we did before. I mean, as you said already, Rhona, firstly, we filmed this last September. we'd been trading for 6 months like that. We were at such a young stage. We found out that we were going on the show back in July last year, which was like after 3 or 4 months of trading. So we knew we were super early on, but we also knew we couldn't miss out on the opportunity. And so that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is that in the run up to the Den, we were grilled by some incredible individuals. You've already mentioned Dan Murray-Serter, but we were also grilled by some other really experienced and knowledgeable investors. And all of them said to us, guys, don't let the Dragons bullet beat you around. Don't let them take you for more equity than is fair. And we all, I think we had 3 of those grilling sessions. After each of them, the valuation that we had proposed at that time was viewed as being very, very fair. And some of them even said that we should have put a higher valuation on the business. So that's what I went into the Den. That's the only reason I went in with so much confidence around the valuation. And that's why I felt we had enough confidence to not take the offer, is because as much as I wanted an offer, because at the moment that Tej said, I'm going to give you an offer, I think both me and Rhones were both like, where did that come from? Like, it was not looking good at that stage. Like, we'd lost 3 dragons. Tucker had been on our case, which we'll come back to later on, I'm sure. Peter and Sarah were both really nice. But Tej was sort of a bit, he was quite casual and quite like non-emotive. So it was quite difficult to know where he was at. So when we got those offers, we were buzzing internally, obviously. But at the same time, I just knew how gutted we would have been. And I knew what our other co-founders would have said if we'd come back and said we'd given away 30% of the business. It wasn't part of the game plan.
So I think that's the thing. And I think one of the most, we'll come back to the Tucker thing because I've got like a million questions on that. But the thing is that I think one of the most iconic moments for us, which we only saw for the first time on television, was when Tucker said, you dodged a bullet, and Deborah said, no, I didn't. You can throw money at this, but I don't have the credibility of those 2. So first of all, thanks, Debs.
Debs, we love you. We love you.
She's literally such an amazing lead.
She stood up for us, and that was as you say, we didn't get to see that bit. Like all I remember when we turned down the offer is that Tucker was like,
yeah.
He made it. They didn't show it on the show, but he
loves the way they didn't show that. You know,
he gasped, and I was like, oh god, have I made the right decision? But yeah, we loved that. That was the best line from Deborah, because that actually really, I'm just going to talk about that point now. Tucker saying that he could he could get it on the shelves for £1,000 is the most ridiculous thing I've heard of in my whole life. That's like saying I could get a pair of Nikes on the shelves. I could take the Nike trainers, copy them, and stick them on the shelves. Of course you could. You can copy anything, like, unless it's got a physical patent. It comes down to brand and actually authenticity and credibility, as Deborah said, and actually passion.
But also on top of that, Deborah has been using our competitors and confirmed that she said this is better. She goes, I'm already on toothpaste tablets, but they don't taste quite right. This is better, and it's presented better. And I think that's the whole thing about brand identity. And if you think we've stopped there, no, we recognise, just like any other brands, formulas keep improving. Size, packaging, everything always changes all the time to make it a better experience for the customer.
Yeah.
So we are addressing that every single moment. And I think the one thing is that people are saying, what was wrong with Tucker? I don't think there was anything wrong with him. He does have he does have affiliations with another dentist and another dental brand, so he obviously feels very passionate about what he's doing there, and that was it. But at the end of the day, everyone,
he clearly had a conflict. I mean, yeah. I'll say it if you won't, Rhodes, but he there was clear, he, as you say, he had his own agenda. And that was quite clear, I think, throughout the whole episode. That's fine. I mean, that's business. At the end of the day, you've got to do what's right for your own business. But thankfully, the 4 other dragons were really, really nice. And there were loads of bits in there, I think, that they didn't include from Peter and Sarah, who were really, really complimentary about the product and the purpose of the product. It wasn't the right investment for them, and I get that. But it was it was quite clear from the start with Tucker, and it was really hard actually, because he was coming at us hard for a long time, and that made up a fair proportion of the grilling that we undertook.
Yeah, and as I said, they do edit certain things, and but we do feel, generally they did edit it in a fair light, because sometimes editing is done for good TV, as it were. So as I said, you saw 15 minutes, we were in there for 2.5 hours. Someone just asked, do you have an idea as to what initial offer they may come in with? Well, it kind of touches back on Simon's point. So we had an incredible entrepreneur, very successful businesswoman that knows businessman that knows the dragons very well, and he helped us with our valuation, and he thought that what we'd come in with was really fair. So he thought that they would accept that offer, because we weren't being ridiculous. Like sometimes you watch Dragon's Den and you see people like, we're valuing it at 2 million, but this is the amount of sales that we've made. So we'd actually taken his advice on that. So I think Simon and I did think, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for both of us and do interject, I thought they might just accept the offer on the basis that it was fair.
Yeah, I think we both went in with that confidence after the meetings that we'd had before the Den. But they also said in those pre-meetings, like, it's TV, the dragons are going to go hard at you. We didn't have a long history of sales, so I fully understand the dragons' positions at the same time, and I think. Funnily enough, we actually got contacted by a different Dragon's Den researcher this year who didn't realise we were on the show, asking us to go on for this year. And I think if we had been in the 2021 cohort, then it would have been a very much different situation, because we're so much further along now as a brand. We've got so much more history of sales. We've got so many more retailers on board, etc. So I think it was the right time for us to go when we went, and I fully understand Deborah and Tej's position. But as Deborah said at the end, we are going to take over the toothpaste world with this product, and hopefully she'll be a happy customer, if not an investor.
So I hope that, guys, jump in if you want to. Now, there's been a question here which leads to some of the questions that we had, which is on PÄRLA Pro. So I just want to clear up a few things that happen on Dragon's Den, and Simon will go into the benefits. We had developed PÄRLA Pro just around the time of Dragon's Den, and we recognised there was a huge gap in the market with regards to toothpaste and also benefits when it comes to health and beauty. And so we looked up key ingredients that we could incorporate with the toothpaste in the same way that skincare now has things like retinol, vitamin C, vitamin A, all those sorts of things that recognise the importance of maintaining skincare, not just for a beauty perspective, but a health perspective. So we wanted to put that in PÄRLA Pro, and one of the key ingredients is hydroxyapatite, which gives the teeth incredible gloss and shine, and also helps with sensitivity. Now, as I said, Simon's going to go into the science, but I will say, when we brought up PÄRLA Pro in the Den, it actually took the interest of Tucker as well, and all of the dragons, and they were really into the formula. They didn't show that on the edit, but we really put a push for PÄRLA Pro to come out at the same time as Dragon's Den, because we didn't know if people would start asking about it. So we know that we've effectively launched it now, and there's not been a lot of explanation around it, which we're going to go into. We are actually having a official press launch in May, with key press, influencers, etc. But I know now, as you're all doing your pre-orders and ordering, you want to know a little bit more about the science. But that is the background as to why we have launched it now in conjunction with Dragon's Den.
Yeah, so to give you a bit more information about Pro, in essence, it's got the same base as our original tablets. So same plastic-free, gluten-free, vegan, palm oil-free, everything that we stand for with regards to ethics and efficacy. The things that we've added into it, and fluoride as well, I should say, it still contains the correct dose of fluoride. But we've added in this hydroxyapatite, which, as Rhona's already said, is the building blocks of enamel, which we view to be a sort of real super ingredient, and that's the key sort of lead ingredient in PÄRLA Pro. But we wanted to go one step further than that. So with regards to sensitivity, that is the number one question that we get asked from our customers. And so we had to make this as effective for sensitivity and people who struggle with it as possible. So we included another ingredient called potassium citrate, which is very, very good at protecting against sensitivity. So the combination of those two is epic for that purpose. But also these tablets are remineralizing. So they actually remineralize and strengthen the enamel. And that's the beautiful thing about hydroxyapatite is it's actually sort of strengthening the enamel and protecting it for the future. And then we went even one step further. I think we must have been going a bit crazy at this point. But we thought, a lot of our patients are vitamin B12 deficient as vegans. Being vegan, mostly vitamin B12 comes from animal products, and we know it's a big struggle for our customers. So we tried our absolute hardest to incorporate some vitamin inclusions into this product to boost immunity, to boost the nervous system, all of which vitamin B12 is really crucial in. And we've also included vitamin E in there as well. And there's some awesome studies showing that vitamin B12 fortified toothpaste gives the correct body blood level of vitamin B12 in vegans and the elderly, which is great. And we just thought, what a wonderful thing to be able to add in there to help maintain people's immune systems in a way that they don't even need to think about. They just brush their teeth twice a day, and that does the job for them. So yeah, that's Pro. We're super excited about it. It's our
and it's the first tablet in the entire world that has all of that. So just saying, guys. So
yeah, which we're so excited about. It's been a real long time coming, and yeah, we're really pumped about it.
And the other thing is, people ask, is PÄRLA suitable for sensitivity? So we recognise that a huge percentage of the population suffer from sensitivity. Absolutely, and PÄRLA Pro is definitely also the one to help with that, and also to aid in other things like professional tooth whitening. You know, if you want to kind of reduce sensitivity and so forth. Also, we've got another question. So it says, why did you add hydroxyapatite and not FAP? And I'm guessing that's fluorapatite. It still does have fluoride in it. That's another good point, actually, for that question, because people have been asking whether it does have fluoride in it.
There was another question there. Would we accept the valuation? Would we accept the offers today? And is the valuation today the same as it was when we were in the den? So I think it's important to highlight again there that when we went into the den, it was September last year. We're now May. And so obviously the valuation would have increased during that time. We've done more sales. As I've already mentioned, we're into more retailers. And the brand has a bigger brand awareness in general with regards to press that we've achieved and sort of celebrity status that Rhona's helping to push through with a lot of her clients. So it's the valuation would definitely have gone up today, and that's why I'm saying probably 2021 would have been the right time for us to go into the den. But as I say, you've got to take the opportunity when it presents itself, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to note is, we'll come back, Sav, with the hydroxyapatite and fluorapatite. I think the other thing to note is, it's so funny because so many people are like, oh, you should just take a dragon for their connections and kind of like their little black book. But as Deborah Meaden already said at the end, you know, I don't have the credibility of those two. Of course, she is an incredible woman and entrepreneur, but having connections is one thing, and, you know, running a business is a completely different thing. And I always say, you know, it's okay, like if there's a lot of dentists watching here, for example, as well, it's very easy to open up a dental practice. It's a completely different conversation to make that practice successful. And I think that's the same with the product. And I think, you know, we've recognized that we've got some strong points. So, you know, I treat a lot of patients that are online and can spread the message, but that's just one part of it, you know. So I think really just having a dragon for the sake of the dragon isn't, as I've learned as well, isn't necessarily the best thing to do. Right,
so I just want to answer that Colgate question. So are you worried Colgate could launch a similar product and crush your business overnight, from Amit? No, because Colgate have already launched a recyclable toothpaste tube product. All the big boys see the opportunity in greenwashing all of their products. But as has been proven time and time again, when it comes to challenger brands coming in against the long-standing mainstay brands, authenticity always shines through. And Colgate is one of the biggest polluters in the world, Colgate Palmolive, with regards to the plastic disaster that they've helped to contribute to. And so they may well bring out their own individual brand, but and they already have done actually. But I'm genuinely not worried about it, because what it really means is this category is here to stay, and that's the most important thing for us. Like we genuinely are, with all of our hearts. Like when Rhona and I first came together to start this brand, I just had Thea, my little girl. We just watched Plastic Ocean. We just watched Planet Earth, the sort of first ones where David Attenborough was really going hard against the plastic crisis and sort of showing it to all of us in Indonesia and in the plastic patch in the middle of the Pacific. And that's what drove us into making this brand. That's not what was driving Colgate into it. Colgate are being driven purely by finances, purely because they feel that they have to maintain their market share. And that lack of authenticity will always shine through. And those individuals who actually care about the planet won't accept that as a position. And that's already been shown with their various products they've released already, because they are it doesn't look like they're doing very well.
Yeah, so the other thing is, I just wanted to add to Simon is that you can spend your whole life worrying about, you know, big conglomerates eating you up, but at the end of the day, that would stop so many people from being where they need to be now. And you can think, for example, when there wasn't even freshly squeezed orange juice because Tropicana was taking over the world, and Sunny D back in the 90s, if you were growing up when I did. And, you know, I actually knew the person that brought freshly squeezed orange juice to Marks and Spencer's, and the idea came to him because he was on a beach in India, and someone was serving freshly squeezed orange juice in a bottle, and he was like, oh, I actually think that this could work. You know, if he came back and was like, I could never compete with Tropicana and Sunny D, he would, you know, freshly squeezed orange juice wouldn't be where it is today. So I think ultimately, yes, there's always a little bit of a risk, but at the end of the day, people like challenger brands, as Simon said, and people that are really behind the movement, and people like people, you know, and we are the little people that, you know, people want to support and aspire to. So I think that really hasn't been a worry to us. And as Simon said, it's just reconfirmed that toothpaste tablets are a thing and are going to be becoming a thing as well. So just a quick one, because I want to of this one, because people are getting confused, and you know, we've been getting lots of messages. Pro does contain fluoride and hydroxyapatite, so it's not just one or the other, because I know there's been some studies and some talk around whether you can not have fluoride and hydroxyapatite instead, but we have incorporated both, so I hope that answers that. Someone has brought up here as well that the 4-month supply doesn't fit all the tablets. I'm sure that's the thing, is it? With the jar?
Yeah, so when we increased the size of the tablets, which was a big request from our customers when we had our first iteration of the tablets, the tablet size exceeded the size sufficient in the glass jar. So we have dealt with that, and the new jars that are coming out soon will be able to fit all of them in there. All that means is that you just have a small amount left over in your compostable bag that you can then refill in at a later date. It's not a major issue, but it is something that we're working on.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any more questions that you got today, by the way? Because I'm going to try and...
How do dental practices stock in their clinics was a question that I had. We anyone who is interested, if you're a dentist and you want to stock it in your practice, please just email Hayley at PÄRLA and she'll be able to organise all the details for you. But simple answer is that yes, we love the dental profession. We have our student ambassadors, a lot of you I've seen on the chat here. We have our parlour professionals, who are the dentists and the hygienists that have supported us right from the beginning. But we need the dental profession to make this change.
So Amit, in answer to your question, yes, Amit, legend. I'm well connected in the corporate world. They own 600 practices. Yes, we all need to work together. So 100%, the more of you that are on board, the more that we can create this movement together. So for those dentists that are interested, as Simon said, Hayley at PÄRLAToothpastetabs.com.
But yeah, so we have wholesale prices for dental practices. We also have codes that dental practices can use to allow their patients to subscribe, which is financially beneficial for them. So we know that a lot of patients are going into dental practices and asking for plastic-free options. And for sure, I would imagine, as of tomorrow, there will probably be even more after Dragon's Den going out last week.
Yeah, for sure. So another one of the questions was, we think we've answered that, how has your life changed since?
Maysoon's asked, do the tablets expire? We've put a 12 months after opening on the jar, May, but they're very, very stable in a tablet form because there's no moisture in there.
Yeah. Someone's also asked, would you do it again? 100%.
100p. I found this really interesting, actually, because I've heard a lot of people... I obviously listened to like every interview ever from a startup entrepreneur that's been on Dragon's Den before the show, as we both did, Rhones, and a lot of them said they wouldn't do it again. And I mean, I understand if you get completely slated, but we had a pretty rough time in there, didn't we? We had a real grilling, and it was hard work. But I would definitely do it again, 100%.
Yeah, me too. And I think it just completely takes you out of your comfort zone. But it was just really funny because when I watched it back, I was like, I can't even remember saying that, but that sounds quite good. So I think it really pushed me to speak from my heart, which I don't mind being in that situation. And as Simon said, people say it's a lot more horrible than actually doing other investor pitches, because we spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs. So again, one of the amazing things about Dragon's Den was connecting with other entrepreneurs that had done the show or have thought about being on the show, for example. And so we were able to connect with them. I'm going to just do a little roundup about Daniel Murray-Serter, because I think it's a really important thing to mention him, because he's been one of our greatest mentors as well. Daniel and I knew each other when we were 13 or 14, and we hung out together and revised for GCSEs and A-levels, and then we lost touch when I was about 21 years old, and he went on to do some amazing entrepreneurial things. And me, as a dentist that has a very kind of like black, white, 2 + 2 = career path, found it really inspiring to see someone like him that really kind of went for it. He randomly messaged me about a month before Dragon's Den and said, my mum, how are you, Rhona? My mum was asking about you the other day. We reconnected, I've told him about investor pitches, etc. And he helped us and so forth. And I think one of the greatest things is talking to people outside of the profession that you're doing and understanding how their business does. I'm not doing a plug-in for Simon because I'm not sponsored to do it, but his podcast as well, which I think really, the genesis of his podcast was giving those top tips to people that want to make changes in habits to leading a very effective or successful life. So, I think that was a really important part to how we ended up, being on the show and, portraying ourselves in the way that we did.
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much from that original chat we had with Dan. I think we would have been so much less well prepared if we hadn't have done that with him. There was a couple of other questions earlier there, Rones. One was around cost, and I think the cost piece is a really important one for us to talk about, because we fully understand that our tablets are more expensive than, for example, Colgate Total's basic toothpaste brand. But you've got to think about what's going into that. All of our ingredients have been hand chosen to be as effective as possible. Obviously, that's a given, but also ethically sourced and sustainably sourced. And that's really, really important to us. And I don't think people quite understand how much time and effort goes into making sure that the whole manufacturing chain is as ethical and sustainable as possible, both on the ingredient side for the tablets, but also on the packaging side. When we were designing these products, at every single stage, when we say, we need to put a label on that. Okay, fine. We need it to look great and be biodegradable and vegan dyes and sustainable and not poison the soil that it ends up in. Okay, yeah, times the price you were going to pay by 6. And that's basically the situation for every single element that we've added into the product. So important to us is that we want this product to be as mass market as possible, because the more people we get to make this one small change to PÄRLA, the more impact we're going to have environmentally to reduce the plastic crisis. But at the same time, it had to be a viable business model, and it had to actually work as a business. Otherwise, we couldn't do it. So we have tried to be as fair as possible with the pricing structure. That's why we have the subscription element in there. That brings the cost down and is also the most sustainable option, because it's a closed loop system where there is no waste. But yeah, that's just to answer that one question that we had on finances.
Someone's asked, have you ever thought about using seeders or crowd clubs for funding?
Crowdcube. Yeah, I don't think we would necessarily be adverse to anything right now. We're very much keeping our options open. We've had a lot of interest from investors and people that want to get involved with the brand, which is really, really flattering and humbling. And it's certainly on the table. We haven't quite made our mind up on that yet. We've had quite a few meetings about it. So TBC.
And that is the exciting thing. And we've already really answered how we came up with the idea of PÄRLA toothpaste tabs. We came together because we were representing a lot of brands and we didn't really understand the implications of plastic tubes, and also the ingredients were in them, and we wanted to develop something that wasn't harmful to you or the planet. Looked into options available, and essentially toothpaste has to be carried in a tube if it's going to be in liquid form, and even if it's recyclable, you're just delaying the process to the landfill. You're not solving the problem. So we want to take plastic out completely. And as for the name PÄRLA, it means pearl in Swedish, which Simon came up with and promised that he'd name his second child that, but I didn't see that.
I forgot about that.
Bottled it, didn't you? But basically, it connotes to pearl of the ocean, mother pearl, pearly white teeth, and all that kind of stuff as well. And a lot of people actually asked us, we had a lot of emails about our teeth. We both had composite bonding, thought we'd just put that in there. And you're both whitening and composite bonding. So that was one of the things. I just got a question here, Sai, as well. Moving forward, are you looking into making toothbrushes, and especially dental floss for sensitive teeth that are, again, plastic-free, etc.? So I've just put that one on there.
So we've just launched our new toothbrush. So the PÄRLA brush launched last week. And it's super exciting. The reason we've held off for so long is that the majority of bamboo toothbrushes out there have nylon in the bristles. Nylon is made from fossil fuels, and so is firstly not biodegradable, not compostable, but also contributing to carbon emissions associated with fossil fuels. So we wanted to create a fully 100% plant-based toothbrush that was fully compostable as well. So our bamboo is made from moso bamboo, which is wild. It grows so fast, it's actually described as a grass, not a tree. And also very importantly, it doesn't damage the habitat of pandas. So that was super important to us as well. And then, as I said, the bristles are made of castor beans in entirety, and so can be fully composted and turn into plant food. And you can either compost that at home or in industrial compost. So that's why we took a bit of time creating our brush. It also looks beautiful, which is really important to us because design is very important to us. And ergonomically, from a dental point of view, it's got a small rounded head, which we discussed with a number of professionals is the preferred shape to maximise efficacy when it comes to cleaning prowess.
Yes, and then we said, can you tell me more about the whitening element? Is it as strong as the whitening content in other tubes? Okay, so this is a really important one. Tooth whitening depends on two things. You've got either external stain removal or dealing with the problem internally. Now, a lot of toothpaste can only deal with the external problems. So what they do is the design is based on ability to remove stains. So, for example, if you're a smoker, you drink black coffee or black tea and red wine. So these toothpaste will try and scrub off the stains. The only problem is that sometimes, not all of them, but most of them have very harsh abrasive particles, almost like sand, that have that have the ability to basically scrub away your enamel in the attempts of removing those stains. Now, if enamel is removed, it's removed permanently, it doesn't grow back, so it can be extremely harmful. I actually did an article on this a few years ago that was in a huge publication about a patient of mine that had been using a whitening toothpaste that completely destroyed her enamel, and she ended up having to get get veneers because her enamel was so thin from whitening toothpaste. So you have to be very, very careful. However, you want gentle stain removing products that can give you a whiter, brighter smile. So our original Parla does that as well. It has 4 stain removing ingredients that don't harm the enamel. But exciting as well with Pro, as we said, is the addition of hydroxyapatite gives the teeth a really nice gloss and a shine. So that as well will improve the aesthetics of the teeth. Now, in terms of peroxide is the only thing that can internally whiten the teeth. They come in different percentages, but basically the percentage that you get at the dentist, which is either 16% carbamide peroxide or 6% hydrogen peroxide, is not available over the counter in any form in any toothpaste. So some toothpastes have a very tiny amount of hydrogen peroxide, which is very unlikely to have a difference and make your teeth physically whiter.
Yeah, and just to follow up on the hydroxyapatite point, in essence, what it's doing there is it's blocking the pores of the teeth, which creates a much flatter surface, which means that it reflects the light much more. So that's why we call it high gloss whitening in the Pro product, as opposed to naturally whitening in the original product, is because the addition of that Pro just gives that real nice, shiny white smile. That's basically the science behind it.
There was another question that said, do you not think it was punchy, your evaluation, considering you'd only made 45,000 in sales?
No, because we had a lot more on the table already locked in moving forward. And we'd only be trading for 6 months. And to be honest with you, I think that the trading that we'd done over that time was fairly reasonable. Don't forget, it was also during a pandemic, during the start of like lockdown 1. So it wasn't an easy time for anyone. It was a very difficult and new time, and so it's a fair point, I guess, in some ways. But no, I think our valuation was fair based on the potential that was and still is in the brand, and that continues to grow and get stronger every month.
Yeah, and where we are to date is definitely much more further along than when we were on Dragon's Den.
Rhona, before you ask that next question, can I just answer a few that I had on my Instagram? So which tab is best for sensitivity? We've covered that. That's Pro. Can you use with an electric brush? Yes, you can use all of our tablets with an electric brush. That's no problem with that at all. Where can you purchase our tabs? So we're currently available, obviously, through our website, which is the only place that you can get us on subscription. But you can also buy us from Boots, Amazon, Boots Online, Amazon, the Vegan Kind Supermarket, Bauer Collective, and We Earth. I think those are the main online retailers. And then we're also stocked in some refill and zero waste independent stores across the country, as well as in certain dental practices across the country as well. International shipping, when can people expect it? So we would recommend signing up to our newsletter or following us on Instagram on the Parla Toothpaste Tabs page. We are expecting to go live with international orders in the next couple of weeks. So as I say, please either subscribe to our newsletter on our website or follow the Parla Instagram, and you'll be updated as soon as that becomes available. And then the last question was just on fluoride. Again, fluoride is in all of our products, and that is something that's very, very important to us.
Which I love the fact they edited that into Dragon's Den, by the way. They definitely put...
Yeah, they did actually. That was a really good public health message.
Where do you see Parla in 5 years?
Do you want me to answer that one?
I know your answer, so that's fine.
Well, I firstly I see it in every major supermarket and every major pharmacy. I genuinely believe that Parla is the future of toothpaste. I think that there's been an element of luck, as with everything. We're in the right place at the right time. But every single person that I tell that their toothpaste tubes that they bought their toothpaste tube, they've used it for a month, they throw it in the bin. Every single toothpaste tube you've ever used still exists somewhere on the planet. And annoyingly, they cut that out of my pitch on the Den because that's my favorite line. But it's my favorite line because it's so shocking. Like every single tube I've ever used And as dentists, think about how many of these small little tubes that we give out for free, because the toothpaste companies give them to us for free. We give them out as free samples because it's nice for patients to have stuff for free. Those little tubes last for a week, and they then last for 500 years, gradually breaking down into smaller and smaller microplastics, which enter our ocean, enter our food system, and then eventually enter our bodies and our children's bodies through the fish that we eat. If you are eating fish, or even if you're not eating fish, it may be that you eat an animal that does eat a fish, and then you're getting it through that ecosystem. And so it is the only answer, and that's why it's something that I genuinely believe is going to be the future of toothpaste. As to how far that goes, 5 years is a long way for me to predict, but we're in it for the long run, and we're loving the ride, I guess,
I
aren't we?
think for me in 5 years, I want PÄRLA to be a household name that everyone just knows. Have you got PÄRLA? Have you got your PÄRLA? I want people to recognise this as the toothpaste tablet to be using. I said that on Dragon's Den, and I mean that as well. Someone said, can you get the PÄRLA toothbrush every 4 months too on subscription? Yeah.
So the brush is available on subscription, but only with a subscription of tablets.
Perfect. Oh, another question's just come in. That's fine. Just really proud of you guys. Okay, cool. I think we've answered all of those. So, guys, anyone else? Sorry, I don't know if you've got any other questions on there. I've gone through all of those. Oh, look, this is great news. I've noticed my teeth looking whiter and cleaner. That is exactly because of our stain removal ingredients, so I'm really happy to hear that. And anything else? I mean, look, I hope we've answered all the questions. We definitely had no filter. We've answered absolutely everything that's come our way. As mentioned, it was a very nerve-wracking but amazing experience at the same time, and I think definitely looking back brings a smile on my face. And yes, I'm not going to lie, that moment that we walked away from Dragons, like having had 2 offers but not walking away with an offer, was definitely a sort of like, oh my God moment. But I think the feedback that we've received from people to say, it's amazing to walk away because the deal they were giving you wasn't good enough and you stood behind your brand, is such an encouraging thought, and also just reinforces that we made the right decision. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that side, but that's definitely how I feel, because I definitely was like, should we have taken it, even after giving it, but at the end of the day, it's not just about having a dragon, as I said. Understand your business, understand its value, and really think about what they can bring on the table versus what you can bring to the table, and what you really want from it. So I think that's the most important thing when you're making that really difficult decision.
I'll come on to my closing thoughts on the Den in a second, but just to answer this question around the current toothpaste marketplace and it being oversaturated and confusing, I think this is the reason that we've thrown everything into Pro. We could have quite easily done a whitening toothpaste, a sensitivity toothpaste, a gum toothpaste. And I agree. I personally, if I wasn't a dentist, I would find all of the different options at the toothpaste aisle. I would get decision paralysis. There's just too much there. And my argument's always been, well, what happens if I've got sensitive teeth, but I also want my teeth to look whiter and have stain removal? And so what we've tried to do with Pro is actually be as fair as possible, put as much into it as possible. And we know it's a higher price product than our original product. But again, we've tried to be as fair as possible, include only the best ingredients, and actually give you the best bang for your buck. So if you are the sort of individual that wants to do the best for your teeth with regards to the latest ingredients and even immunity boosting and antioxidants built into the tablet itself, that's what that product's there for. As I say, most companies on the market split it into multiple different tubes. And I too find that confusing and saturating the market. Our message is really, really clear. We have clean, effective ingredients in sustainable packaging. And now with Pro, we have the latest cutting edge ingredients built into that as well. So that if you really want to upgrade your toothbrushing regime, then that's in there as well. So hopefully that answers that question. With regards to my feelings on the Den, Rones will know this very well. I'm always hypercritical of myself. and I was super nervous, to be honest with you. Before the show went live, I was like, I mean, you don't remember. You're in there for 2.5 hours. God knows what we said. It was my feeling before seeing the show back. And you don't want to make, firstly, a bad representation of yourself, but also you don't want to make a bad representation of the profession. And dentists are hyper critical of each other as a profession. And both Rhona and myself were terrified of the fact that we had said the wrong things or not made, as I say, the best representation of ourselves, but more importantly of the brand, because we're so passionate about this brand. And that's why for the last few days, I've been just buzzing, to be honest with you, not only because the response was amazing, but also because I feel like we've given a really good representation of what toothpaste tablets are all about. And what we're all about as people as well. And so, yeah, I was really chuffed with that. You say, Yogi Bali says I didn't look nervous. It was 28 degrees and I was wearing a thick double-breasted suit. So I was sweating so much in there under the lights.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we answered the preferred dragon area. We said it was going to be Tej and Deborah, who exactly were the ones that gave us the offer. And I think I echo those sentiments as well, that it's, often dentists don't understand the why other dentists do things that they do. But I think one thing that Simon and I have in common is that we feel very, very strongly about changing public perceptions of dentists as being the scary person behind the mask or having a negative impression of dentists. So for us, we definitely wanted to appear approachable whilst getting our brand across as well. And I think we did that, because the public response and the professional response has been more than we both would have imagined, with 99% support and, people behind the PÄRLA mission or behind, us as professionals. So I think that's more than I could ever ask for.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, Rones, I've got to roll. But that was awesome. Hopefully we answered all your questions, guys. If you ever get the chance to go on Dragon's Den, just do it. Don't be scared. Just get on there.
Yeah, exactly.
It was an amazing ride for both of us.
But go prepared. All right, have a great night.
Go prepared, yeah.
And I'll be saving this live for any of you that want to watch it later or share it, okay? Bye.
Thanks. Bye, mate.